And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
All right, attention to roll call. What's up, everybody? Morning. Got my good friend with us, George Sarantopoulos. George is the Republican nominee for New York City Council District 47. You might know District 47 because we speak about it often here. Obviously, it is occupied currently by Justin Brannan. And so Justin Brannan is term limited out. George stepped up. He ran a tight race in Brooklyn to become the Republican nominee, and we're excited to have him here today. So thanks everybody for joining us. George, before you go, everybody's probably wondering where Eric is. Eric is in a remote area in Canada right now, again trying to get back to America, and so his Wi-Fi was not working too well this morning. So he's going to sit this one out. He'll be back with us on Friday. George, thank you for joining us this morning, brother. How's everything?
Great. John, thanks for having me on. We've been talking for a while, and I'm glad to finally be on your show. I mean, it's been a crazy time the last couple of months, as you know. And just to cover what the 47th district is, just because people are like, what the hell is the 47th district? It's Bay Ridge, Gravesend, Seagate, Coney Island, a little bit of Dyker Heights. And yeah, that's the 47th district, the most gerrymandered district in the whole city, probably, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been chopped up a couple of times already. So George, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then bring us into why you decided to run for New York City Council?
I have a unusual story more than most people. I've been a business owner for about 30 years. I've owned one business or another. I used to be in the restaurant business many years ago, downtown Manhattan. And then about 20 years ago, I got into the ATM business. I was pretty blessed. I had a nice business going on. I still have a good business going on. My wife's actually running it day to day these days. But about 2.5 years ago, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. And, I had always been involved with campaigns trying to help out and whatever on the side, but I never wanted to make it my career. And 2.5 years ago, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Now, usually prostate cancer is like, it's no big deal. You're going to get some radiation. It's probably one of the best cancers to get because there's a lot of options for you. But at that time, I found out, I remember that day like crystal clear. It was March 14th, 2023. And I went for a scan. And I scanned, they did the scan called a PSMA scan, and they scanned my whole body, and it looks like the cancer had gone to the bones, to the lymph nodes. It went all over the place. So it was no longer like just a prostate cancer. It spread to, the rest of my body. So not everywhere, but definitely on the lymph nodes and bone. So usually when that happens, you're in stage 3 or stage 4, depending on which doctor is classifying it. And how bad the scan is. I didn't really want to know how bad it was, but around 2.5 years ago, I was talking about last will and testament and living will and all that beautiful stuff. My doctor had said, one of my doctors had said about a 70-80% chance. Even one of them said 90%, which kind of freaked me out, that I wasn't going to make 5 years. Yeah, so I went through, I was like, I don't know if I want to do treatment. Maybe I'll just go to Greece and call it a day and, go back to my ancestors and be an olive farmer, like some fantasy of mine. My wife was like, what, are you kidding me? You're going to go through treatment.
You watch the Blue Zone? Is that?
Yeah. I was like, maybe I'll go there and I'll just live like 20 years and, I'll have a nice olive farm or whatever. But my wife's like, you have a daughter. You don't have that. You can't not do that. And I ended up going for treatment. I ended up going for chemo. I ended up doing the hormone.
Oh, I think George is just dropped out on us for a second too. I think he might be in Canada with Eric also. So yeah, so George is running right now. He's running against the Working Families Party. Kayla, I'll get her name in a second, but George got a pretty impressive platform. his Wi-Fi might stink for these purposes, but I'll just bring, while we wait for him to get back up, I'm just gonna bring in his platform for right now until he comes back. So George is on his public safety platform. He's talking about zero tolerance safety zones. He's talking about fixing our subways and public spaces, protecting our women, our seniors, and vulnerable riders, neighborhood patrols and community watch. He already has a couple in his district that he's working with. He has a package to combat auto theft, and he also supports deporting violent criminals. George, we lost you for a second.
I apologize about that.
No, it's not your fault, dude. It's not your fault. It's but if you could just bring us back to where you are. You said that you had went through treatment now.
I went through treatment, and last year I did for an MRI. I wasn't expecting the best results, but I went for an MRI, and it showed up that my cancer was completely gone.
Wow. God bless you, bro.
I don't want to just ascribe just treatment to it. There was a lot of prayers involved too at the same time.
Where did you go for treatment, if you don't mind?
Sure. Dr. Mark Stein with Columbia Presbyterian.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he's, he hates I put his name out there because he's like, I got enough patients. Stop putting my name out there. But people call him up all the time. I put it out there frequently, and he's like, I was like, you need to start paying me commission or something,
That's it. I'm gonna call him after. So call him after we do the show.
Well, I hope you never have to call him. But he heads up their cancer research program. Columbia Presbyterians try to give Sloan Kettering a run for their money. So that's really what's going on.
No, but it's a great hospital though, Columbia. I've been there unfortunately for other things, but all right. So basically a miracle, right? You have cancer all over your body, and now you have no cancer at all, and so you decide that you want to be stressed out to the max and run for public office. Like, how does that happen?
I wanted to give back. I mean, look, I have a blessed life. I've been blessed with a good business, and my wife, when I mentioned this to her in January, February, it didn't go over so well in the beginning. I'm not going to lie here. It went over like a lead balloon. And she's like, there was a lot of Chinese cursing. My wife's Chinese, so there was a little bit of Chinese cursing, a little bit of yelling and screaming. But I said, listen, I want to give back, which my wife did not understand in the beginning. But I wanted to do something. I felt that there was an opportunity here. Justin Brennan was term limited out. I've moved into this neighborhood 24 years ago. It's not the same. And I think there's an opportunity for a Republican to win the seat finally. It's been a while.
What do you mean by that? It's not the same. Like, I say that often too, but like, what do you mean? Like, what are the issues that you're seeing that you believe that you could help to fix?
I think it's the argument I always make. It's death by 1,000 cuts, right? People, like, you're living in Florida. A lot of people are living in Florida. A lot of people are living in North Carolina. God forbid, a lot of people are living in New Jersey too. But
that's what I say. I was like, New Jersey. I'm going to Florida. Screw that.
Yeah. But it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? You give up on the city, not because there's a tornado, or a hurricane, or fire, or whatever, and you're like, I can't rebuild in New York. I'm going to get the hell out of here. What happens is the taxes are too high. You can't get on the subway anymore. Your packages are stolen. Your catalytic converter got stolen. You can't find a decent job. And all this just adds up after a while. And you know what? You get fed up with it, and then people bail on the city. I mean, I'm sure your story is somewhat similar to that, because people just give up on the city. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And then after a while, one day you say, you know what, the hell with it. I'm going to move to Florida.
Yeah, my story is a little different. Like, I was basically forced out of my career, and I couldn't work or eat in restaurants. So I was like, I really felt like I had no choice. Like, I have a disabled daughter. I wasn't able to get treatment for her. And I was like, I sat around for almost a year, and then I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, do I open a business in New York? Like, I'm already running out of money here. I just lost $200,000 a year, and like, I was not planning on retiring anytime soon. So I like kind of ran to Florida. I ran to Florida to open a business, and like just for basically religious freedom, really. That's why I like, if you look at my social media handles, I have New York City refugee on there, because I literally ran to Florida for refuge, to get my kids to be able to learn in school, and for me to be able to make money. And the added benefit was I could actually sit down in a restaurant and eat, or I could go to a concert. I could shake someone's hand. It was like, so I kind of ran out. But with that being said, now I'm always in New York. I still own property in New York. And I noticed the quality of life where I have here is so much better than when I go back to New York City. And just small examples, I go to the grocery store and I buy a bunch of stuff, and they just bag my stuff up, and they don't charge me extra, and they put it in these plastic bags like we used to have for years and years and years. And then like the other thing is, I go to my local Walgreens, and whatever I want to buy, a pack of razors, whatever it is, I walk to the shelf, I pick it up, and I bring it there. When I go to New York and I go to the Walgreens by my house in New York, I can't get anything. It's all behind like a locked shelf. I have to ring the bell. And there's a homeless guy in the front. And like, it's like, the quality of life I notice has diminished greatly in New York over the last 5 years.
I spoke to the local councilman about the Walgreens here in Bay Ridge. This was 2 years ago. And I was like, this was, I think, at the tail end of the pandemic. And I'm like, dude, everything's under lock and key. I was like, Walgreens is going to like bail out of this neighborhood eventually. And he's like, oh, they'll just hire a security guard. And I'm like, yeah, but that costs money for the business. And after a while, they're going to make a decision, like a business decision, like, I'm going to get the hell out of here. Like, as a business, why should they pay hundreds of dollars, if not more, to have security to protect razors or shampoo or whatever's getting stolen? The Walgreens manager told me, and it's just a sorry state of affairs that we accept that hundreds of dollars of merchandise goes out the door every day, hundreds of, and it's, after a while, it's not sustainable as a business. Walgreens will say, you know what, I'm going to open out down there in Florida, more stores. Why should I stay up here in New York City? And where it affects the quality of life more in the inner city than anything else, I noticed from my business when I first started working in these neighborhoods. Everything was under lock and key. And then there was a period of time, I guess, with Bloomberg and Giuliani, the 1-2 punch, where things got really better, where the shopping experience, where the quality of life got really better in the inner city. And now it's just going back to crap. Everything's under lock and key. Everything's under behind a bulletproof glass. I mean, it's really going to affect it's really affecting the inner city more than let's say Bay Ridge or other neighborhoods. That's the sad part.
No, yeah, and the other thing I notice every time I'm there is like, we used to say New York City is a city that never sleeps, and while there's still portions of Manhattan that's true, I mean, when I'm in the outer boroughs, I feel like I'm in Florida. Like in Florida, it's like Sleepyland. You know what I mean? Like 9, 10 o'clock, things are shutting down. Nobody's really around. You're not going out to a restaurant at 2, 3 in the morning. But like now when I'm in New York, if I'm out late, other than like bars and stuff, nothing's open, man. And I'm like, that's weird, because when I was, for the last 20 years, maybe 30 years, it wasn't like that, so the outer boroughs are taking a big hit, and it's definitely noticeable. And the amount of transient people on the streets has increased significantly over the last 5 years. I mean, not just in Staten Island and Bay Ridge and everywhere. And, it's a big public safety problem. It's not that just it's an eyesore, and it's not, hey, all these people, there are people dealing with some serious mental trauma. And we saw what could happen with that when we just look at what happened in North Carolina to that poor girl on the bus that was just sitting there, you know what I mean? And basically New Yorkers are being left to fend for themselves. And as I walk through the streets in New York City, and I was in Bay Ridge 2 weeks ago, often, I was there a bunch of times. I didn't see one cop car the whole time I was there. And that is unlike when I was a kid. You would see cops, a consistent cadence of cops throughout all of the fields, illegal scooters everywhere. And I'm just like, what is happening? What happened to the quality of life here?
Well, the homelessness, when I first moved here about 24, 25 years ago, the homelessness, we didn't have homelessness here in this neighborhood, right? And now we have by the Alpine Theater, 86th Street, the parks, and you know, again, these people not only are making it hell for everyone around them, right? They're living in hell themselves, right? I don't think as a society, if we're claiming we're a kind society, right? Why are we giving them money every month to get high? And they're basically living in hell, until they get their next fix. Like I think, and I'm not an expert, but I think we should have a little more tough love and say to them, listen, if you're going to receive state money or city money, you need to get into a rehab program. I mean, if somebody was sleeping on your couch, doing drugs all day, and you were giving them money and you were feeding them, after a while, you would say, and it wouldn't take, I have a feeling it wouldn't take it that long. You would say, you know what, you got to get off my couch. You got to get into some program. Like, that's it. That's, we can't, I don't know why we have a problem with doing some tough love with some of these people, and it's not, like I said, they're living in hell themselves too. They're not just making it hell for everyone else on the subway. They're trapped in some living hell that is, I don't know. I've heard some of the stories from some of these people, and it sounds like they're just going from fix to fix to get through the day,
Oh yeah, I mean, one, I blame the not-for-profits, a lot of them that we consider as successful, and they're not really that. They're not successful at all. You know what I mean? And I say that because every year, I mean, what you said is 100% true. For Staten Island, I lived in Staten Island for 20 years before I saw a homeless person. I never saw a homeless person until Bill de Blasio. And I was a cop there for 7 years. I worked in numerous precincts throughout Staten Island, and all of a sudden, like, homeless people started popping up. But the amount of money we would spend into these not-for-profits was increasing, and it just continuously increases every year through Bill de Blasio, through Eric Adams, increase. And I look at my first cousin as a great example of this. He's seriously mentally ill. He was a steam fitter, he had a great job. So he made a lot of money. So he's entitled to disability. So he gets disability. So he's, from time to time on his episodes, he's mentally ill and homeless on the streets in New York, and there's no resource for him to go. But money isn't his issue. He doesn't need money from the state. He doesn't need any money at all. Like, and I'm not saying that he's obviously not the majority where he's like, could actually, if he was functioning mentally, he could actually support himself and support a household. I'm not saying that that's the normal, but it just shows how broken the system is that there's nowhere for him to go to actually get some type of treatment mentally and bring him back to a functioning member of society. And he doesn't need the money. He has health benefits and he has a monthly income coming in.
I've heard of a story in the district. Somebody was trying to go through a drug rehab program, and he's like, I checked myself in, but they didn't have a bed for me for weeks. So I slept on the floor of the hospital. He's a computer kid, not a kid, he's in his 20s, but he was going through some tough stuff. And he had to sleep on the floor of the hospital for weeks until they had a bed for him for the program. I mean, somebody wants to go in and check into a program, we should have a bed for him right away. Like, hey, you want to get fixed up? You want to flush this stuff out of your system? You want to go get the tools you need to get through the day? We really should. We need to do better. I'm committed to that,
Yeah, and last story, and then I want to get on to you. But last story is, someone in my wife's family was struggling with drug addiction, and I had tried to bring them to a rehab when they were sober, and the rehab wouldn't take them because they were sober. And so obviously that's a problem. So then we find a private medical institution, but by that time, that person's will to do that is already gone. So within a few days, person disappears, they pop back up, and now they're obviously on drugs. And from that point, I was able to get them into a rehab. I literally, physically, by physical force, brought them to the hospital and brought them to the rehab where they were having this episode and this relapse. And I was like, why does it need to get there? Like, why can't someone come in and tell you, like, I have a problem? If you don't, if you guys aren't going to take me in or help me, like, I'm going to go back out on the street. And so, thankfully, thank God that person's doing
But
great
Thrive New
today.
York was supposed to solve all this, right?
Thrive New York. I mean, and what did Adams do? I love that everyone cares about, like, Bill de Blasio's wife so much. It's like, yeah, add Eric Adams and all his buddies on there too, because not only did he not investigate it or have anyone investigate it or try to get that money, he doubled down on that program and gave it more money. So, and all he did was rename it. So it's like we're playing the same shell game in New York, So all right. So you're living the life. You're in Brooklyn. Your quality of life is diminished. You feel like God has given you a second chance on life, and you want to do something meaningful, not just make money. You want to actually give back.
Right.
So I totally applaud you. So, like, what are the stances specifically on your campaign? I was going through your public safety platform, did it last night, and again when you blacked out. If you could just walk us on what's your core platform, like what's like I'm in, my friends that are still in Bay Ridge, my family that's still in Bay Ridge. Why should we be voting for George? What's your core platform? What separates you from what they've had? Justin Brannan, and obviously Kayla, who you're running against, she has said that she's from the school of Justin Brannan. So, you're not getting any change there. She's part of the Working Family Party. I know it's a lot there, but, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what's your
I would say
platform?
the number one thing is to back the blue, to back our police officers. I mean, look, I know if you have a councilman who's not friendly with the police department, who's saying, and he was in an interview a couple of months ago, Justin Brennan, and the first thing they said to him was, well, how would you cut down the budget for the city? And he went back to the well instead of backing off the defund the police line, right? He said it again in the interview, in the debate. Like, he would say, no, I would cut down the police department. And it's always this nebulous answer. And Mandami is, kind of modulating his answer, right? It's no longer defund the police. We're going to have this ridiculous office of community safety or something, or violence interrupters, or whatever the hell they're going to call them this week, right? They're going to rebrand them. But police officers are the violence interrupters. We don't, and when this guy needs protection, he's not hiring social workers. They're not putting social workers around him. This guy, this guy Mandami, who's running, is now trying to. We can't let him change the answer. And Kayla endorsed him. She's part of a club, the Bay Ridge Democrats, and the Bay Ridge Democrats just endorsed Mandami. So you can't. Mandami and her are tied to the hip. She's going to go there if she gets elected as a city council, and whatever crazy policies Mandami's going to push out, she's going to push out. She's just going to vote for them. So let's hone in on one of those policies, because he recently came out in the media. He did an interview with Errol Lewis the other day, and he said that he was for abolishing the NYPD's gang database. We'll go back. We've done a bunch of episodes on this, and we'll go back into it on Friday. But just briefly, the gang database is just a resource tool that the NYPD uses to deploy resources to. There's no impact on somebody being listed in the gang database, other than that it'll list a crew that you're with and who your rivals are. And there's a lot of nuance as to how you get in there, and then you will be removed if you're not part of gang activity in a certain amount of time. And that was per all of Department of Investigation's recommendations. And the NYPD even went further on some. And so, there's no landlords aren't contacted, schools aren't contacted, employers aren't contacted. The being listed in the New York City gang and the NYPD's gang database literally goes nowhere, other than when violence happens, the victim, and if we know the perpetrator's name, will be ran in there to determine if, in fact, they're a gang member, and where the NYPD should deploy resources to prevent further gang violence. So, in essence, like, the gang database really just keeps gang members safe. It actually keeps their members, their family members, them, and their communities safer, because it will deter further gang violence. So Mandani's came out in support of that.
many New York City Council people, including New York City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. And I'm sure, like you're saying, she's going to. I haven't heard Kayla say it specifically, but I would bet a lot of money that she is going to support abolishing that gang database. What's your stance on that gang database?
Well, I just want to talk about a couple of things about the gang database. They've done a model where they show the map where gang activity is going on, and it's in NYCHA housing. So, people are going to be okay here, maybe in Bay Ridge, but they are not going to be okay in NYCHA housing. That's part of Coney Island. That's part of the rest of the city. There's a strict overlap on the where there's gang activity and NYCHA housing. That's number one. I want to put that out there. Secondly, the law is very nebulous, according to what I read. It's not even that the gang database; it's even criminal involvement. It's very nebulous. So it could be you can't even keep track of like, hey, George Sarantopoulos knows John McCarry, and John McCarry and him are running, I don't know, robbing trucks or whatever, right? So it would be even hard to keep some track of that. That's the way my understanding is it, and that's what some people were telling me. Police officers had told me. And I would say the third part is that these gangs exploit children. They're taking teenagers and recruiting them at a young age because of raise the age and throwing them into their gang conflicts. So, I think we need to know who's on the gang database. So if this teenager is hanging out with this adult, we want to know that what's really going on there. So those are just a couple of things I just wanted to add to the mix. And, obviously you're a police officer, a former police officer, so you would probably be able to speak a little more about that than I am. But this is what I'm getting bits and pieces from different police officers that I speak to on the job.
So and what would your stance be if there was a vote if you are elected to the city council, or when you're elected to the city council, what's your stance going to be if they're seeking to abolish the gang database?
Oh, absolutely no. There's no question about that. I'm a big advocate of the tools that police officers need to do their job. I'm not gonna, like I said, let's not, before we get into the policy, I'm gonna back our police officers out on the street. And by the way, any council people that want less police officers in their district, I'm gonna insist that they come to the 47.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally, I still don't get the whole basis of, I don't even know who they're helping. Like, I don't understand who supports this or why this is even a political talking point. So it boggles my mind. It's like we're literally doubling down on failure. Like, what's wrong? I put this little video out yesterday, and I think it's just an explainer about the gang database, and just for those in the audience, so you understand. Like, I support people's First Amendment right. I support their Fourth Amendment rights. I don't want the police just being able to do anything they want at any time. But like we're talking about people that are admitted gang members, people that have been involved in gang violence, people that have been arrested for gang violence, and listen to how strict it is to actually even come into, even for the NYPD to even put your name in there, and then they remove it, and listen to how it's used. I mean, I call out the NYPD often when they're doing things that aren't right, and this just is not one of them that they're getting wrong. This is just common sense policing here. This has nothing to do. So I just want to play the video and get your thoughts on it, George.
While the information contained in the database is a critical intelligence tool, a variety of protections ensure that the information in the database is not misused. An individual's inclusion in the database is not a matter of public record. It does not appear in a person's criminal history. The fact that someone in the database is not shared with employers, schools, landlords, or civil immigration authorities. The fact that an individual is included in the database is not a ground for a stop or arrest and is not evidence in court. It is not a basis for charging decisions, bail determinations, or sentencing. In 2023, following a multi-year investigation, DOI issued a comprehensive report regarding the database. The report found no evidence that inclusion in the database caused harm to any individual or group of individuals, and did not identify a relationship between inclusion in the database and any individual adverse outcomes. At the same time, DOI made various suggestions for how the department could improve its procedures relating to the database. We have taken the majority of DOI's recommendations, and in several instances, we have made changes that go well beyond those recommendations. It is now much harder for someone to be added to the database. It used to be that someone could be added to the database based on a combination of factors such as presence at known gang location or association with gang members. That has been eliminated. If a detective proposes adding someone to the database on those grounds, the proposal will be rejected. Instead, an individual can only be added to the database if that person has admitted to gang membership, either in speaking with law enforcement or through the person's own social media posts, or if, over the course of an investigation, detectives believe that an individual is a member of a criminal group and two independent and reliable sources have identified that person as a member of the group. Moreover, these grounds for inclusion in the database must be documented. If there is insufficient documentation, the individual will not be included in the database. This strict requirement enables effective supervisory oversight, both through multiple layers of supervisory review and DOI's ability to audit entries in the database for compliance with our policies. We have also dramatically revised the rules for removing people from the database. There is an automatic review process. For adults, it is every 3 years, and for juveniles, it is every 2 years. A person can only remain in the database if that person has been arrested for a violent crime, weapons possession, or a crime in furtherance of the criminal group, is on parole or probation, or is in jail or prison.
So that's the gang database summed up right there. George, you with us? I saw you were having a little.
Yeah. I heard all of the video, by the way. I don't know why that's controversial. I mean, look, I love that these progressives go to the city council. They're 25 years old. They get elected to the city council. Imagine, and they're going to tell police officers how they should do their job. I mean, look, I know we should be. I'm not going to. I don't know how to put this the right way, but you don't go to a doctor's office and tell them how to do their job, right? You don't go to I didn't go to my doctor who's a cancer specialist and tell him, well, I need to get treated a certain way. Police officers need this tool to do their job. It's not affecting anyone's life on a daily basis. Why are we trying to get rid of a database, a tool that's going to help police officers do their job,
And the other thing is, and the thing I've been going at Jumaane Williams and everyone in city council that's been pushing this, city councilwoman Althea Stevens out in the Bronx. I keep asking and no one will give me the answer. Could you just tell me what harm is being caused to those that are in the gang database? If I have no problem. If you could tell me something that is harming somebody, then I could understand. If you could tell me how someone's being affected, then maybe we could come to an agreement on it. Maybe there's a solution. But to say we're just going to abolish that because we don't really know why and we can't explain it, but we just think it's wrong. To me, I think that's a problem. How are you a lawmaker when you can't even acknowledge? I haven't heard the only reference that I've heard as to why the gang database should be removed is that because 99% of the people that are listed in the gang database are written down as black or brown individuals. They identify or they are black or brown individuals. And when you look at the gangs across New York City, 99% of the gangs are black and brown. I mean, so it's not rocket science here. I mean,
but who are these crimes affecting more than anybody?
And the crimes are overwhelmingly affected black and brown people. I mean, violent crime in New York City, if you're a black and brown person, you are at I think you're at I don't want to give the wrong numbers, but if you look at Sam Antar's whitecollarfraud.com, if you look at his blog on the disproportionate violence rates, I think it's something like you're 20 times more likely to be a victim of a violent crime as a black New Yorker as opposed to a white New Yorker.
Well, that's the
And
real racism, right? I mean, that I can't cross the street without maybe getting killed in my neighborhood, as opposed to being on the gang database, who's affecting 1% of 1% of the population.
yeah, so I mean that's absolutely crazy. The other thing that they voted to the city council actually voted and passed is removal of qualified immunity from New York City police officers. What's your stance on qualified immunity in the NYPD?
Look, again, police officers need that to. There's a lot of frivolous lawsuits out there. I mean, they get sued all the time, so I think they need qualified immunity. If you're going to take qualified immunity away from police officers, and I don't suggest we that it was a good idea, we should take it away from judges too. I mean, look at that judge in North Carolina who probably let this poor woman out. I mean, she should go to jail, that judge. I mean, this person had been arrested, 14 times? Something like that. And we hear stories about that like that in New York all the time. So I think, look, I think the number one job, public servants, whether they're elected or judges or police officers, is public safety. And when you abandon that for some political radical agenda, I'm sorry, there should be consequences. I'm not okay with that,
No, I totally agree with you. Another thing that's been controversial in New York State is and it relates to a city problem. And New York State is 2A, right? Is the right to bear arms. So for years, the NYPD was denying concealed carry permits to people, saying, well, you have to be a business owner and you have to have this amount of money.
And I stop you right there. I'm in the ATM business. I've had people that, hey, I needed a weapon out there. Things I was just talking to you before we got on the air, right? That things got a little crazy in the Bronx, and they have no record. They're obviously fixing ATM machines. They're carrying cash around, and they're getting denied on a regular basis. On a regular basis. So, what qualification it is to get a licensed weapon is beyond me.
So I mean, basically, somebody sues, they win, right? It's unconstitutional, and now the NYPD is holding up their permits. And that's another thing. The only people I know that are getting carry permits in New York City are hiring lawyers, like to get their concealed carry permit. What's your stance on a law-abiding New York City resident getting a gun permit? I know this obviously isn't going to come up in city council, but I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Well, it's also costing a great deal of money, right? I mean, when people have to hire a lawyer, it costs an additional $5,000, whatever it costs. So it's making it difficult for somebody to get a gun license when they need it for their job.
Yeah, George, are you on two different devices? Why'd you come in twice? Do you know that?
I don't know why.
I'm gonna kick one of you off. I'm gonna kick the one in the background off. All right.
Sure.
So yeah, because we were getting a little feedback from you.
Yeah. So what I was saying is it's costing a lot of money for people. When let's say you're a small business owner, you own a bodega, you own a ATM business, small ATM business. Not all these guys are rich. It's costing another $5-10 is what I'm understanding that. So, I mean, it's making it very difficult for somebody to get a license when they need it out there, especially when things, like I was telling you before, are getting difficult in certain parts of the city, like the Bronx.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, I think, and that's another thing people are fed up with. I mean, it's just simple as the right to defend yourself. Not to go back to the horrific incident in North Carolina, but I just want to bring it up for 1 second, just because here's the other thing. If you were lucky enough and you sued New York City and you got a concealed carry permit because you're a law-abiding citizen, you're not allowed to carry that firearm on New York City subways. So let's just say there was a violent maniac stabbing people right in front of you. You're left defenseless and unarmed, and there's no cops on the train because we have a shortage of cops. And I mean, I just think, the laws in New York City and New York State. They embolden criminals. And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the people that are currently in elected office really haven't been on the earth this long and haven't really ran businesses like yourself. And I think that's another important aspect of lawmakers is people should understand the effects they're going to have on society with certain laws. Now, we obviously don't want New York City to be the Wild West, but competent, law-abiding New Yorkers should be able to defend themselves and others from violent attacks. I mean, and we saw what even happened with Daniel Penny, how he was demonized for stepping in on the train that day. But I bet that poor girl that lost her life, she would have, and everyone else on the train that day would have wished there were a man like Daniel Penny on that train to step in. And again, I think we failed Daniel Penny as a city because it was a failure of the New York City Public Police Department. It was a failure of the mayor's office to keep him safe on the train that day. Instead, he was left to defend himself and others, and he had to intervene.
Listen, being a good Samaritan, standing up, will probably get you in jail these days here in New York. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I remember the story with the bodega guy who got cornered and he got attacked, right? I don't know if you remember this story.
Yep.
And he got attacked and he got pushed into the corner. So to defend himself, and I probably would have done the same. You probably would have done the same. He picked up a knife. Now, keep in mind, this guy was cornered. The guy who attacked him had like some kind of weird episode, probably a drug episode or whatever. And he stabbed him to protect himself. And the bodega guy got charged. I mean, if people weren't complaining and screaming and yelling about it, this guy would have been in jail. And the guy, look, the guy was just trying to make a buck. The guy was some immigrant. He was working some crazy hours in a bodega and he got attacked for it. I mean, this is not, he's one of those brown and black people that, is just trying to get through the day. I think he was like 60 years old, if I remember correctly, but he's the one who faced the consequences, not the criminals,
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that's been popping up and throughout, and Mikey G in the chat's asking this question. He says, "How do you feel about the social media creators that are making content basically harassing police?" And Mike, I just want to just before you go, George, I just want to say that I totally think this is a failure on the New York City Police Department because there are laws in place to stop this from happening, to arrest or summons these individuals that are engaging in this action. But for whatever reason, the police department either is not training these officers or they're telling them to not take action. I don't know what it is, but there are times when there are violations of the law happening. That doesn't mean we can't record the police officers. Absolutely, you can from a safe distance, but you cannot harass a police officer. It is actually illegal. But what are your thoughts on these content creators, George?
I think they should use all the tools in the toolbox to prosecute them or charge them with whatever crime that we can on the books. I don't know what laws are on the books to protect police officers, but obviously cops need to be doing their job, and social media influencers should not be jumping in the middle or trying to get content or get a gotcha moment or trying to get a rise out of a police officers. Again, you have a right to videotape anything or video record anything, but you shouldn't be able to get in a cop's face about it. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's basically what it is. Like, you could videotape an arrest, but you can't get right in the middle of it. You can't interfere with it. You know what I mean? And like, you have First Amendment, right? You could take out your phone. You could record the police. I mean, record the police all you want. I was on record every day when I was in uniform. I mean, like, what are we worried about here? And there's nothing but, when there's a scuffle happening or you're dealing with the situation, I mean, you don't have the right to stop that person that day. You're actually obstructing governmental administration, which is a crime, because you're interfering with that police officer's ability to do their job, right? And now, if you physically interfere, now you're facing some serious charges. So I totally agree with you with that one. Another thing, we've been advocating, myself, Teachers for Choice, Bravers for Choice, a lot of people out there on the front lines in New York City, advocating for New York City to drop all the COVID related court cases and compensate and reinstate those who were terminated and forced from their careers for refusal to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Where do you stand on that situation? How do you feel about the mandates, and what do you think should have happened to those affected workers? Uh-oh, I think George is frozen again. Oh no, he's back. You're back.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. What I promise you, if you have me on again, I will we'll hardwire this baby up. But am I fine now? Do you see me?
I see you. You're good.
Okay. So you were asking me a question. I apologize about that.
No worries. So terminated workers, New York City put in a vaccine mandate. New York City illegally denied many religious accommodations and medical accommodations. They decided to play God, which is bound in New York law and New York State human rights law that they're not allowed to do. And so a lot of workers were terminated without due process. Some were forced into retirement without due process, without ever being formally charged with anything. What's your stance on compensating and reinstating these individuals, and what's your stance on how New York City reacted to COVID?
Well, the reaction to COVID was ridiculous. I mean, I have a friend of mine who was arrested for breaking the chains in the park, Heshi Tischler.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I know he's a little crazy, but I mean, he was right at the time. The hipsters were all hanging out at the park at Central Park, like nothing was going on. And these, and I'm just giving you one example of the unevenness of enforcement. And people in his community weren't, and remember, people in his community have 6 or 8 children. And in the summertime, they need to go to the park because those kids, they're squeezed sometimes in a small apartment, and they weren't allowed to go to the park. But meanwhile, there was photos of people, all the hipsters and whatever, hanging out in Central Park like nothing was going on. So it's the pandemic obviously was selective enforcement. Let's just leave it at that. Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Sorry. So you cut out for a second. So yeah, that was definitely selective enforcement. So I believe that the workers should be reinstated, and I believe that there should be, what happened to my body, my choice, right? I mean, we were putting in an untested vaccine without a lot of information, and you were told, like, listen, if you don't get this vaccine, you're going to be fired. I know sanitation workers who got let go. I mean, what were they gonna do? Affect the garbage with COVID? Like, to me, this is insanity. It'd be one thing if you were working in a hospital and they said, well, we're going to insist that you take the vaccine. And I don't even know about that. I'd have to think about that hard and long. But the sanitation workers had to be mandated to get the vaccine. It made no sense to me.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, and it literally changed the face of a lot of these agencies. It changed they're having problems hiring and retaining people. And when you look at it, that's exactly what it was. It was arbitrary and capricious, because if you were good friends with the mayor, you didn't even have to put an accommodation in. If you did, it got accepted. And I know whole staffs that all submitted the same exact exemption, and some got approved and some got denied. Same exact, except the only thing that was different was the name on the application. And so, New York City did not follow the law there. So, and I think it was a knee-jerk reaction what they did. And I think what's worse is the cover-up. I think that the fact that to say we broke the law, and now here we are 3.5 years later, this could have been solved this could have been solved 3 years ago. And Eric Adams had made this a huge issue that it didn't have to be.
The biggest crime of all, I'm gonna be straight up with you, is that Cuomo killed seniors. I'm sorry to say that, but he's got deaths on his hand, because I remember at the time during the pandemic, there was that hospital boat that they could have used to put some seniors in. There was the Jacob Javits Center they had set up. And the reason why they didn't want to do that is because they didn't want to give Trump some kind of victory. But meanwhile, those seniors went back to their senior centers and died, about 15,000 seniors. And to me, the guy is running for mayor. It just boggles the mind. Really, it just does.
Well, so while we're on it, what do you think about the mayor race? Like, what are your thoughts on that, and who you supporting?
I'm supporting Curtis Lewa. I mean, I think that's the way we have to go. Adams is corrupt as hell. I'm sorry. Obviously, Mandami, I'm not supporting because I'm not down for socialism or communism or whatever. This guy wants to ban private property. He's given videos where he wants to let all the criminals out. Besides that, and he's against home ownership in some videos. So I'm definitely not going to be supporting Mandami. Como has blood on his hands, and in my opinion, Adams is corrupt as hell. So I think Curtis Lewa's got to be the choice, and he's a good man. He knows the issues. He knows them well. I don't think there should be a debate about it.
Totally agree with you. I mean, I totally agree. I think Adams has proven himself to be completely corrupt. He's harmed thousands and thousands, probably millions of people throughout New York City. He kept us locked down like we were communist China a year past the rest of the world. And Cuomo's decisions.
Adams' criteria for hiring people was like if you went to high school with him or you hung out at a club with him. Like that's his criteria, and that's why he got into all these issues. And I assure you, when I'm on the campaign trail, nobody's giving me a potato chip full of cash, potato chip bag full of cash,
Yeah. No.
So
I was like, another lawsuit came out that yesterday that was like labeling corruption with a high-ranking NYPD chief, and it's funny because that chief is pictured in a Freemason ceremony with Eric Adams, former NYPD Police Commissioner Edward Caban, who resigned amidst a federal corruption probe. Former NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry, who retired amidst a corruption sex scandal in the NYPD. And then you have this high-ranking chief, and it's those four sitting there. And I'm like, so Eric Adams is clean. Eric Adams is good. And he's putting out videos like he was facing 33 years in jail because something he didn't do. And I'm like, no, you did all that stuff. That's why the DOJ dropped the charges.
Yeah, the feds don't grab your phone because you didn't do anything,
Yeah. And you don't miraculously forget your number and have 7 phones if you weren't doing anything. So it was like, that I totally agree with. And then Cuomo, I don't understand it like at all. And the people that are sitting there and saying that Curtis Lewa can't win. I mean, the reality is Cuomo has proven he can't win. Adams has proven they can't win. And because Adams ran away from the Democratic primary because he knew he couldn't win. He polled to see if he could beat Sliwa in the Republican primary, and he couldn't. So he didn't run the Republican primary. So he has no base. So bye-bye, Eric. Go get a job with the Trump administration or go convince someone else.
Maybe a job as ambassador to Turkey. He likes it there.
He does, and Cuomo can't win. He already lost. I mean, so the real thing is a vote for Cuomo or a vote for Adams is a vote for Mandani, because you're ensuring that Curtis Lewa can't win. If you are a Republican, you're a conservative, you're a moderate, you hate the direction that this city's going in, Curtis Lewa was your only option, in my opinion. So I totally support your stance on that. There is a group inside of New York City Council called the Common Sense Caucus. They're small but mighty. They've been doing some great work. If elected to New York City Council, would you join the Common Sense Caucus?
Absolutely. I've actually spent some time with them about a couple of weeks ago. I visited with them. There's about 6 Republican members. Then there's 2 Democrats, Susan Zhang, who, anyway, no comment there. And then Robert Holden, who's a pretty great guy,
No, Holden's great. Swang has a lot left to be desired, especially that she bit an NYPD chief not too long ago. And so I wasn't too fond of her with that, and I wasn't fond of her coming out and some of her endorsements where she supported people that I'm like, that I thought you were part of the Common Sense Caucus. But I think the rest of the Common Sense Caucus, I disagree with some at times, but overall I support them all. I think
it's a shame that there's only 8 members, right?
I agree, totally agree.
I mean, that's just a sorry state of affairs that we can only find 8 people to be part of the Common Sense Caucus in the city council. Like, how far have we fallen?
Well, the city council is and that's why it's important that we get common sense people in there like yourself, right? Because you could be number 9, and I think that's I think that would be a big step, is if we could take some city council seats this year and get some actual common sense people in here. Your opponent was retweeting this from Lincoln Wrestler. Curious what this is. I'm sure it's nothing that you support. So let's hear. Here we go.
Model student in our downtown Brooklyn community. And yet Donald Trump and his goons abducted him last week when he was doing the right thing by showing up at his immigration. Model student.
So a big fight that I've noticed on her Twitter, like going through it, she's highly concerned about New York City, the NYPD cooperating with ICE and deporting illegal criminals, particularly violent illegal criminals. Like, what are your thoughts around Donald Trump deporting people here illegally that are committing crimes?
I'm just shocked that this is a debate. Okay, you're a violent criminal. Like, my father's an immigrant. Like, I understand, but if my father in the 60s and 70s, I don't know, became a Greek gangster, I don't know if such a thing existed, but if he did, and he got deported, it would have been rightfully so. Like, my father was working in diners 80, 90, 100 hours a week. He did the right thing. If you're here and you're not doing the right thing, you're not working your butt off. I just, now you come here as an immigrant, we give you a phone, we give you a luxury hotel room, we give you all kinds of benefits, we give you health insurance, and you're still going to be robbing people? Like, really? I have a problem with that. I'm sorry. Like, if you're here and you break the rules and you're violent or you're robbing people, I'm sorry, you need to go. I mean, that I will not hesitate on that. You will not see me jump in the middle of an ICE raid on some criminals getting arrested and deported. I'm sorry. That's never going to happen. So, yeah, if you're a violent criminal, you need to get deported. Sorry. That's I have no sympathy for you at that point. Now, if you're here and you're working hard and I mean, I know an immigrant family that, they got status, they worked their butts off. All of them worked hours and hours, and they collected cans on the street so they can buy their first home. We need more of that, less of these violent criminals.
No, dude, I swear, as I was asking you the question, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I can't believe this is actually a question. I can't believe I'm asking. Like, because it really, that's where we are in society. It's nuts. Like, any other country would be like, oh yeah, we're deporting you. You're getting the hell out of here. America, we have our own politicians. And honestly, like, the thing is, and I've been saying this for a long time, is I think that the majority of our politicians, especially those on the left, they work harder for illegals than they do for their own citizens. I mean, like, I don't understand it, and a lot of the violent crime that's happening is stemming from those policies. And I'm like, we're funding more crime in this country. We're funding to have more of our resources drained. And I think it's insanity to me. It's complete insanity. I think we lost you for a second, George. Are you there or no? All right, we'll get George back in a second. Oh, he's back.
Sorry about that. I promise you, next time we'll be hardwired.
Don't worry about it. You're doing fine. So, all right. So there was a tight race in Bay Ridge. Just curious what happened there. I know there was some like lawsuits filed and stuff. Like, could you get into any of that? Like,
yeah, I mean, listen, I'll talk to you about it as much as I can. I've been told my lawyer let the Brooklyn DA's office do their job, so I'll give you just the overview if that's okay.
Sure.
So there was two problems with my election. The number one problem was, Justin Brennan's office got contacted a couple of days after the election. There was a gentleman, his name was William Allen. He's an older gentleman. He's passed on since then. And he got a notice of a corrected ballot. Now, this guy is a registered Republican, and he was a registered Republican. And he's like, I didn't vote. I haven't voted because I'm mad at Trump, blah, 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 whatever. So I'm upset with the Republican Party. So I refuse to vote. So he got pissed off, and he contacted Brennan's office because he said, I never voted. Actually his son did. His name is Justin Allen. And the reason why I give their name is it's a lot for like average people to stand up and say something or do something. So I want to give them credit where credit is due. I know Kayla wants to claim credit somehow. I don't know. I don't understand that. But then they found out that his office found out that even dead people voted in that election. So this gentleman's ballot was corrected. It's a permanent absentee ballot because the guy was sick. He said, hey, I never voted. And then when Brennan's office looked at it, I want to give credit where credit's due. They found out there was dead people that voted. And then the Post jumped on the story and they found even more dead people voted. And the Times then jumped on it. Jay Root from the Times jumped on it. And he actually went around knocking on doors in the community and said, I found people that were either too sick, they definitely didn't vote, or even more dead people that didn't vote. So that's problem number one with the election. Second one, there's no way to know who those people voted for because once those absentee ballots came in, they're thrown into the mix. So you don't know how they voted. But the second part was our team found we would download the totals every night. And as so it's election night, we download the totals, then a day later, then a second day later. And we found 22 ballots were thrown into a box after the election in Coney Island, in a building called Warbass. And those 22 ballots weren't found until days after the election. So all those ballots broke from my opponent. So that's a problem because that's statistically impossible. So again, I just, I got to let the Brooklyn DA's office do their job, but they're looking at it hard and they're investigating people. I know they're investigating people. So those are the two instances where those ballots were invalidated by the Board of Elections because they weren't even scanned on the day of the election. And then the judge agreed, and even my opponent had to concede that.
So many problems with the voting, and especially in New York, especially in states where ID is racist for to vote only when it comes time to vote, but to go eat in a restaurant is perfectly fine to show someone your private medical information.
What about cold medicine? You got to show ID to buy cold.
Yeah, that's true. That's another thing, another quality of life issue in New York, right? I remember the doctor. I remember one time when my kid, she was sick, and the doctor recommended a mix. I forget what it was. It was like Motrin Tylenol mix, to like bring the fever down. And they didn't want to sell it to me. They're like, "Oh no, it's too much. You could make amphetamines." I was like, "Is this a joke? Like, is this serious?" I'm like, because someone is using drugs, I can't get the medicine I need for my kid. Like, apps, and then my name was put in a database. I was like, is this ridiculous or what?
And if you went to two drugstores separately to buy, like, you probably would trigger something too. You know?
And what are they doing? Nothing. They're just, they're just inconveniencing me. It's like unbelievable. But like the whole voting thing, it just boggles my mind. How?
Well, just so I don't know if your audience knows this, and it's important to know that the Board of Elections in New York, it doesn't run like any other city agency. There's no civil servant test. Basically, you're appointed by the party bosses, the Democrat Party boss and the Republican Party boss.
Oh, we lost George for a second. Danny, I see you. Danny says Sudafed laws were passed in the state years ago, probably 20 years ago. It was done for valid reasons. It was definitely much sooner than that they had changed something with them or had strengthened those laws, because there was a policy that had happened, and that was only a few years ago. And I think they overstepped completely. And it actually, again, New Yorkers are paying for what they're paying for other people's problems. Like, we're putting people, nefarious actors first. George, you back?
Yeah. You see me?
I see you now, brother.
Like I said, we'll work on that next time. Sorry about that.
No. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, no, I like I said, I can't understand for the life of me why we can't just tie our votes to like our IDs or our social security numbers, and we could see how we voted, when we voted, where we voted, who we voted for.
They won't throw you out of the voter rolls if you died. There's people that are on there that are 177 years old, 114 years old. they only throw you out if you haven't voted in a presidential election in 20 years. And that's when they finally throw you off the voter rolls. So there's people on there over 100 years old that system's being exploited. So that needs to change. For example, if I got some kind of government benefit, I guarantee you they're going to cut me off the day of the next cycle, the next month. I'm not going to receive a check. So why are people still allowed to be on the voter rolls when they've passed on?
Well, I think it's done intentionally to keep dirty voter rolls, and honestly, it's disgusting. The last time I voted in New York, for whatever reason, when I went to go vote, the house that I was in, I had bought from my father, and so when I gave the address, my father they were confusing me with my father who had passed, and I looked and I saw my mother's name who had passed over 20 years ago. So I was like, whoa, why are their names on the voter roll? And they're like, oh, you got it. I was like, wait, I got it. I'm like, they have a death certificate in New York State. I got it. How would I even know?
It's also horrific when you knock on somebody's door, and I've done it where I've collected petitions for a candidate, or I've collected it for myself, and you knock on somebody's door, and they're like, "Oh, they've been dead for 4 or 5 years." It's just not a pleasant experience when you like, oh, because that's somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's brother, somebody's sister, and you're knocking on their door and saying, "Oh, I want to talk to." John McCarty Sr., for example, and it's, you're going to tell me if I knock on your door, get the hell out of here. You're going to be, it's not a pleasant experience,
No, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And then I often wonder, did I vote in these last couple elections? Because that's the other thing. When you move out of the state and you re-register to vote somewhere else, I guarantee my name's still in New York. I guarantee I'm still on the voter rolls. And then I'm like, it makes me wonder, did I vote, and who did I vote for? You know what I mean? And I'm like, why are we thinking about this in America? I can't, like, with like Danny B 315, he says, I was once refused to be sold cold medicine for my infant in an emergency while I'm in uniform. Exactly. So we could track the amount of Sudafed you buy, but we don't know who you voted for or where you're registered to vote, and we can't secure that somehow. Like, how are we a competent society if we can't even track votes properly? We can't even keep track of voter rolls. Our voter rolls are completely dirty. We have dead people on them. You have people that live out of the state now, people that move out of the city and move upstate or move to Long Island. I guarantee if I look at city rolls, there's going to be people that haven't lived in the city in years. They either live in Jersey, they live in Long Island, or they live in Westchester or wherever else they moved from, but had once lived in the city. And it's a big, big problem. It's to me, it's done intentionally. No one wants to clean the voter rolls.
No. They definitely don't want to clean the voter rolls. I mean, I've been told so much they just want to look, the other thing is, I feel that the party here, we're at about 130,000, 135,000 registered Republicans, and Staten Island's like 95, 100,000. I bet you if we clean the voter rolls here in Brooklyn, we're probably at Staten Island numbers, and that would be embarrassing for the party because we're in the most populous borough in the city, and to be at Staten Island numbers for our party registration, I mean, party needs to do a lot more better work here. I mean, Trump really did well with the Black and Hispanic community, and we're not talking to that community, registering people. We're not registering people in the Asian community. My wife's Chinese, full disclosure, and we're not doing any kind of movement there to go and register those people that are starting to vote Republican. Like, we need to bring them into the fold. And that's been my argument here with the local party for a while. That's why I'm always going to be seen as the outsider. I want a big tent because I want to win elections. They would prefer to keep it a much smaller tent because it's easier to control. That's just my 2 cents for what it's worth, No,
I totally agree with you. And I think, when I look at Staten Island GOP and when I look at the national GOP, I think the same thing. One, I don't think they recruit talent. I think they're insane. They don't look for viable candidates, people that could actually win elections. They actually push people that could win elections out. They fight people that could win elections from even getting on the rolls. Exactly. And I've seen it time and time again. And I keep laughing about, like, are you serious about winning elections? And I'm like, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I've done a lot to advocate for Staten Island and for the city. And I'm like, the fact that Staten Island GOP never reached out to me tells me a lot of things I need to know. And then we lost George again for a second. I think he's back. But then when you look at it, I mean, when you look at the amount of seats that run unopposed in New York City, I'm like, and throughout the state, I'm like, to me, it appears like they've given up on New York, like the national GOP, I think, yeah, the local GOPs definitely run in circles, and there's a lot of nepotism in there, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening in there, and I was furious with the Republican Party in 2021 and 2022, and I still am. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a conservative. I'm a devout Catholic, and I feel like they turned their back on me in 2022. They didn't care. They were like, "Oh, you're just a white male cop who's a Christian. Don't worry about it. New York could discriminate against you. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Stop crying. Go figure something else out." And I'm like, wow. And I don't feel like I would have got the same response if I was had a different makeup. And so that's that, that to me, I'll never forget that. And I think that when I watch what's happening in New York, all of it's happening through grassroots organization, like the Donald J. Trump Republican Club in Kings County, what you've done. And it's really grassroots people coming up to get themselves on the ballot and working extremely hard and jumping through hoops to get them there. So I think, so I applaud you for getting yourself in that fight.
Thank you. Well, listen, the party was not favorable to me, like I said, because I'm an outsider, and that's okay. But we proved them wrong. We did the work, and we won this election. And we obviously the machine was working hard to keep us to keep us out of this primary win, but we prevailed. Look, I'm not the type of guy who just gives up. Obviously, my battle, my health battle, and I'm not going to give up. I'm definitely not going to give up to the party machine to stop me.
Yeah, and that's Lisa Roberts says it here too. She says, "I'm a conservative in New York City. We don't have any representation in our city. It's just too liberal. And even with the so-called Republicans," and she puts Republicans in parentheses there. And I wouldn't disagree with you, Lisa. And the sad thing is like, I think you see a lot of people come in with all great ideas, but then they get kind of caught up in the corruption and the reality of what New York City is. I see a lot of Republicans gathering around Eric Adams, and I'm like, this guy's directly responsible for the decline of this city. I mean, he's no different than Bill de Blasio. His 2021 campaign is a mirror image of Mondani's current campaign, and I'm like, I don't see how we could just cross over and be like, oh, let's just everything.
Mondani just has better packaging. He's packaged. Whoever's behind him, and obviously there's a lot of theories out there. There's definitely he's well polished. He's well spoken. I've heard him speak. His design, his graphics, his social media game. He's got big money behind him and smart money behind him. So that, he's not some man of the people like he's trying to project himself,
He's the king of sound bites. I mean, he knows how to make sound bites. He knows how to go viral. He knows how to make people laugh. The guy's a genius. I definitely wouldn't say he speaks intelligently. He speaks to get sound bites and to get people like him and to get people to laugh. But if you really know what's behind him, and the thing is, the big money that's behind him, it's because, hey, listen, who doesn't want an easily corruptible politician? I mean, if you got big money and you're looking to build casinos, you're looking to get big contracts from city government, these billion-dollar contracts that go towards hotels to house illegals. And that comes from a lot of Republicans on the right, including, the New York City Hotel Owners Association, which is unfortunately Trump organization's a part of. And I don't not see that. Like, I see that clear as day. And I'm like, I see the benefit to rich people to keep Eric Adams in. I mean, look, we just had somebody indicted out of his administration for what? Getting a bike lane removed. They paid, and I'm like, this is, it's nice and easy. Does a businessman really think anything's wrong with that? I give 75,000. They get rid of the bike lane. I don't care. It's a drop in the bucket, and like, honestly, this is how they do business. You know what I mean? What's corruption when it relates to government is just common day business to a businessman. You know what I mean? But it's up to those in elected office to hold the line and hold the integrity, and for our government to hold the line and ensure that those lines aren't blurred. But right now in New York City, those lines are severely blurred. And that's why there's a lot of big money behind Eric Adams, because, hey, listen, the guy will do whatever we tell him to do,
Yeah, obviously. And I think Mandami would be more of the same. I mean, listen, they want to distract us with all these debates, these woke ideas, but it's really to protect the billionaires, to protect themselves. That's why they're distracting us with all these minor things. And people were having like these robust debates about transgender bathrooms or whatever the hell, right? But there's an agenda there. The agenda is, and that's why Mandami has big money behind them. They're going to give the working class a couple of crumbs so they don't really talk about the real debates in this city, like crime, safety, affordability, like real affordability. That's just my opinion on it, and bike lanes and all that other nonsense, getting back to that, that's just a war on cars. That's just a war on freedom. There's nothing more than getting in an automobile. There's nothing more American than getting in an automobile and say, I want to go from point A to point B because there's another opportunity there. It's just a war on cars, just because cars symbolize, in my opinion, freedom. Not to get distracted with the bike debate, but that's really my feeling on it,
No, I mean, listen, it's a fair debate because it's an issue that's happening. I saw a video recently from your opponent, and she's saying that, we need to install cameras where we could hear sound cameras. So if you had a loud muffler or your car's loud, you could get a summons. And I'm like, do we really need more cameras throughout Bay Ridge? And I mean, the amount of cameras, lights, and speed cameras, and the lowering of speed, it hasn't really done much to prevent they
talk about something like the mufflers, right? That nonsense. Yep. That really infuriates me, right? I mean, obviously that bothering somebody in some area, right? That's a real concern, right? But somebody got burned in the district and at the Stillwell station. That's the real safety issue. Like, she don't talk about that there was a illegal migrant here who was high on drugs and set a woman on fire. I mean, why is she not talking about that? That's what's keeping people up at night, right? Like, I might fall asleep on the train and find myself on fire, not the mufflers. This is minor, excuse my French, it's minor bullshit,
I totally agree. And then, I find it funny that they talk a lot about these illegal e-bikes too, and they're worried about the safety of pedestrians, but yet, God forbid, the NYPD interacts with a person who later found out to be illegal. Not that they would even know, because they're not allowed to ask. On an unregistered bike, they're going to go nuts if that person's deported, or if there's any type of enforcement action taken against them. So even their policies kind of contradict what they really want. And in my opinion, when it comes to the cameras and it comes to the lowering of speed limits down so much, and the way that the camera lights have been working in New York City, and I'm sorry, the red lights, the timing of the lights in New York City, and the bike lanes, it's really done to, in my opinion, to lower the quality of your driving experience and kind of force you not to want to be in your car and kind of force you out of your car. That's just my opinion on it, because there is a huge anti-car culture.
In Bay Ridge, they wanted to put 50 city bikes docking stations. I mean, people moved to Bay Ridge and they didn't live in Park Slope or other parts of Brooklyn because they wanted a car, right? Most likely they wanted to have a garage. They wanted to have an automobile. Maybe they need it for work. Maybe they need it for their health because they can't get on the subway. there's a reason why people chose to live in Bay Ridge. And one of them is probably that they wanted an automobile. So to put 50 city bike docking stations in Bay Ridge is tone deaf. It's just to appease the new, hipsters that are moving into the neighborhood and not really respecting people that have lived here for a long time or that have chosen to move here because they wanted a car.
But the thing is, like, they're the loudest voices, and they get out and they advocate and they vote, and that's why they're getting what they're getting, because they have their representation in office. And conservatives really traditionally have their head down, going to work, running their business, and they're not getting involved in politics. And so this is the result of that. And then you look across Manhattan, how many parking spots have been eaten up by city e-bikes. And then when you look, you're like, well, people must be using them, right? And, for anyone that wants to know the usage of city e-bikes, I recommend following Reza Chowdhury on X.
I follow him.
And he also, he'll come out and he'll just let you know that, like, in peak season, so you figure spring through fall, when people should be riding bikes in New York, because again, New York is like, we get some inclement weather in the winter, right? You're not going to be really out there riding your bike when it's ice and snow. Some people I've seen some delivery guys, that they're resilient, but more often you're not going to be renting a city bike, is my point, and going out there. And in peak season, they sit unused over 90% of the time. So they're literally just taking up parking spots, literally.
Like I said, I am maybe one docking station, but not 50,
Yeah, absolutely. So you're good. You're back. So yeah, I think a last question for me, and then if there's anything you want to touch on that we missed, would you think about the handling of the migrant crisis from New York City Council, Eric Adams? Like, what were your thoughts on all that?
What handling? What I mean, look, if I put a sign in front of my door in my home and say, free meals, you could stay here for free, we're going to give you money, of course it's going to attract even more people. So we want to be a generous city. Why don't we take care of the people that are already here that need some help? Again, the people that are on the subway, that are going through a mental health or drug addiction crisis, that are melting down on a daily basis. Not import more poverty, more people in the city that we're going to have to put them up in a hotel room and give them benefits. It cost us billions and billions of dollars, and it took money. I don't care what the councilman says here. It took money away from other needs that the city had. Real needs, whether it was libraries, schools. I mean, my daughter goes to a school here and they don't have lockers. They didn't have enough money for lockers. That money, when
we just lost George. He was talking about money for lockers. So listen, we got about 300 people here this morning. Thank you guys for joining us. Number's a little low today, right? If you guys could just do us a favor, like, share, subscribe. If you're on X, retweet it. If you're on YouTube, do us a favor, just hit that like button. Appreciate it. George, you're back. We lost you for a second. You said your daughter didn't have money.
We'll do better next.
Oh, did he just go out again? Yeah, he just went out again. But I think we get the gist of what he's saying, right? Like the money's going to where it shouldn't. Bad money's going to bad ideas, and where our money should be going isn't properly going. So yeah, I mean, and for those of you that are in support of e-bike of the city bike program, again, they sit unused 90% of the time. Why we should take up all these spots? And it's not just about taking up spots. It's also about making the roads you travel on smaller, right? Because you're basically eating a lane in the street to put those e-bikes in the street. So what does that do? It leads to what? Traffic, right? It makes the population more dense. It seems like as you're driving through New York City, there's nowhere to maneuver, right? Because you're stuck in a lane. So now, God forbid, there's an accident, and oftentimes there is. What are you doing? You're in one lane. You're stuck there. You're not going anywhere. And so those are the things that we're talking about. George, we got you back. Sorry about that, bro.
Yes, listen, we'll do better next time. Sorry about that, but I really appreciate you having me on, and sorry for the bad connection. But like I said, look, we need common sense in the council. If you live in Bay Ridge, you live in Coney Island, you live in Seagate, you live in parts of Gravesend that I have, or Dyker Heights, please consider voting for me, because like I said, I don't need the job. I want to do the job. I want to go there and make a difference. We need some more common sense. And we need more variety in our city council, former police officers, firemen, business owners. We need less of that professional, democratic, political class that just wants to, that's unemployable in the private sector. We just need more of representation of New Yorkers.
I totally agree with you, bro. They are definitely unemployable anywhere else. But thank goodness for public service in New York City and the elected service in New York City. Totally agree with you. So, guys, anyone interested in following George on social media, going out to his website, donating to his website, it's all in the links below wherever you're watching or listen to this. So check that out. And George, if you're still there, if you could just give us a rundown of your handles, where we could find you, where we could donate to you, and if you need anything for your campaign.
Listen, unfortunately, I hate to ask because I'm a business owner, but you need money to run. So if you want to give 10, 20, or $100 or $50 or whatever, it gets matched 8-1. So a little bit goes a long way. Anything over $10 gets matched 8-1. So you don't need to donate a crazy amount. It's George for Change, NYC.com. And then it's George for Change, NYC on Instagram, and George for Change NY on Twitter. Those are the main places you can find me. But if you're not sure, just go to my website, georgeforchangenyc.com.
All right, awesome. All right, George, thank you for staying with us. Join us an hour and a half today. Appreciate you being here. And, 100%, anything we can do to help you, we'll definitely push you. And I listened to you the other day in the Donald J. Trump Kings County Republican Club. And I think that you're the right man for the job. You support a lot of the common sense things that I do. So, I think you got a friend in me. And, hopefully we could remove communism, not just from New York City, but from Bay Ridge.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, John, for having me on.
All right, George. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back at you today. Check out the Executive Perspective, 5:05 p.m. They're going to be doing a tribute to September 11, 2001. Obviously, Sal Greco will be back on Thursday. We'll be back at you on Friday, myself, Eric, and Marlon. So we're going to get into the lawsuit that just got dropped for NYPD Chief Raul Stevenson, where it's being alleged that he wanted to be the party chief, and there was a lot of nepotism, cronyism, and a lot of corrupt things that were happening up in Patrol Borough, Manhattan North. So join us on Friday to hear more about that. George, thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me on.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community, but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.